The first man's name was Kiki. He wore such little pants. His brother was the champion, but Kiki loved to dance. The second man was Choo Choo, a master of romance. He loved the damsel in distress, but not as much as dance. And then one day it happened. They went off to the world. They went on to a journey, idolized by the boys and girls. They learned so many lessons in all the foreign lands. But no matter where they wound up, they never stopped the dance. One day inside the station, in Amsterdam perchance, the men were dancing side by the man with the crooked glance. They turned to face each other. It was just happenstance that these two men would meet that day and do that fateful dance. Wow, you can really dance. Wow, you can really dance. He went. They said we've both been dancing all this time. What a coincidence. And then they danced together like no one's danced before. The diplomats were dancing. They cancelled all of the war. No more. The whole world celebrated with no more violence. And all because these men crossed paths. What a coincidence. Dance, 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 dance. Let's dance.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started for today. Hope y'all are doing well. Today we're going to be talking about keyboard shortcuts. It's one of the many of the little topics that are related to user experience that we're going to try and fit in here in the last month or so of the class. Before we start, though, a few announcements as always. So the projects, as you know, are due this weekend. Projects are due this weekend. I think it's by Sunday night, late Sunday night. The focus for this deliverable is you need to have a focus on showing the things that you've updated since last time. So you're going to want to show progress for sure. You're going to have like a before-after photo. But remember, that's going to be a single picture. So you're going to have to learn how to stitch two screens together, before screen and after screen, as a single picture. Make sure it's a PNG format. I'm going to be strict on formatting this time. It's got to be the right format, and it's got to be one picture, and things like that. You're also going to be updating fonts, so make sure you've made a conscious decision on what fonts you're going to use for your app, and that's going to be due this weekend as well. All right, so that's coming up this weekend. Today, however, we're going to be talking about keyboard shortcuts. And so yeah, we're just going to be learning a little bit about that topic today. Be a little more fun, a little more interactive since it's Friday. Not a typical studio day because we're going to learn about this topic, but still a little more interactive than a traditional lecture. All right. So, and I'll take questions about the project at the end of class. So, what types of apps is it most important to optimize for the keyboard? And I'll give y'all just another second to get your answers in. And some of you know it is very important to optimize white collar worker apps for the keyboard. It could also be important to do web forms, kind of, but definitely important to do white collar apps. If you think about it, if you're, as a white collar worker, using the same app, for a part of your day, like every day, and it doesn't have keyboard shortcuts, you're going to be pretty annoyed. If you have to fill out a web form like one random web form one time, and it doesn't have keyboard shortcuts, it's annoying, but it's not killer. So it's the most important to optimize for these white collar worker apps like Excel or Word or whatever other app you're going to end up using. What types of apps do you think support keyboard shortcuts? Out of all these, what types of apps do you think support keyboard shortcuts? And as you can see, you are all correct. In fact, many web apps, although it can be a little surprising, support keyboard shortcuts. Think about Gmail. Of course, desktop apps often support keyboard shortcuts, but definitely code editors. Code editors have a glut of keyboard shortcuts. You should definitely start to learn those if you're going to be a serious coder. And spreadsheets as well have lots of keyboard shortcuts. Good answer so far. Y'all are awake today. Now, what type of users do you think in your own mind, what type of users do you think like shortcuts? Of course, there are people that have kind of low vision or they're blind. They're going to be using keyboards for sure. So they like shortcuts. There's people that have motor impairments. Maybe their hands are too shaky to use a mouse, but can use modified keyboards somehow. So those people would definitely appreciate keyboard shortcuts. There are many users that just prefer to use keyboards to complete certain tasks. And the most important in terms of like the broadest category of people that like keyboard shortcuts are going to be experts. It doesn't have to be like an expert in a specific topic. It could be like an accountant that uses spreadsheets all day, every day. It could be a coder who uses an IDE all day, every day. Really, anybody that is a power user for a given kind of white collar app, these are the people that are going to be using shortcuts. Think about graphic artists that are working with Photoshop all day, every day. They are going to know a lot of keyboard shortcuts for the app that they spend a lot of their time in. And so it's going to be important to support them with keyboard shortcuts. They will be highly annoyed with you if you don't. So there are a lot of shortcuts, even within Windows itself, or Mac itself. We're going to look at Windows today, but in general, there's a ton of shortcuts. For instance, let's just look at this short video which talks about 20 useful keyboard shortcuts.
As many of you know, keyboard shortcuts can make life easier when navigating your computer. There are the simple ones like Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste. There are also lesser used shortcuts that can be just as useful. Coming up on Tech Gumbo, I'll show you 20 keyboard shortcuts that can be used with your Windows computer that can save you time and increase productivity.
I just wanted to mention, see how many of these are just 20 of the more popular ones. See how many of these that you actually are aware of if you use Windows.
And for the first time ever, I'll be putting timestamps in the description of this video. So if you ever need to come back to this video, All you have to do is just click one of the timestamps to take you directly where you need to go. With that out of the way, let's get started. Let's start off with an easy one. If you're like me, sometimes you have several programs opened at the same time. To easily scroll through those programs, hold down the Alt and Tab key at the same time. And then keep pressing the Tab key with Alt held down until you find the program that you want, and then let go of both keys. If you're in a program and you want to see your desktop, holding down the Windows key plus D will minimize your open windows, showing your desktop. Holding down the Windows key plus D again will bring your open windows back into view. Many of you are familiar with the snipping tool built into Windows that allows for capturing a part of your screen. A quicker way to take a snippet with the latest versions of Windows 10 is to hold down the Windows key plus Shift plus S. You'll see the cursor is replaced with the plus icon. Now just left click on your mouse and select the portion of the screen that you would like to capture. And then let go. It will automatically create a copy to your clipboard, but to save this capture, you'll need to paste it into one of your image editing programs. Here's a shortcut that works with every browser I've tried it on. If you have multiple tabs opened, after you go to exit those tabs that you didn't intend to close, you can bring them back by pressing Ctrl plus Shift plus T all at the same time. Everyone knows that using the backspace key will delete one character at a time. What is even more useful is holding down the Control key and then tapping on the backspace key will delete entire words. This deletes sentences and paragraphs quicker without having to use your mouse. If you simply want to rename a file without selecting it with your mouse, use your arrow keys to move over to the file, then tap the F2 key, then rename your file. We'll stay on the function row of your keyboard for this next one. When you're running File Explorer or you're in your web browser, pressing F5 will refresh the page. Snapping windows is great if you like to multitask. Let's say you want to watch or listen to a YouTube video while working on another project. So let's take this YouTube window, hold down the Windows key, and then tap on the left or right arrow key to move your window into place. Then use the same shortcut to move the other window into place for side-by-side viewing. I already showed you earlier how to capture a snippet, and most of you know that using the print screen key on your keyboard will capture the entire desktop. But if you want to capture the active window you have open without capturing the rest of the desktop, hold down Alt plus the print screen key. It will automatically copy to your clipboard. Then just paste it into your favorite editing program. I've lost a lot of work over the years due to random computer crashes and power outages. Using Ctrl plus S frequently to save your files can save you a lot of time. For that reason, Ctrl plus S is one of my favorite and most used shortcuts. Instead of going to the Start menu to open Settings, holding down the Windows key plus I will open the Settings menu. Using the Windows key plus A will open the Action Center panel. With the panel open, I'll give you a bonus tip. You'll see the word Collapse is outlined in white. You can use the Tab key to jump down to the next section, and then use the arrow keys to navigate this panel. And with Wi-Fi outlined in white, I'll hit the Enter key on my keyboard to turn it on. You can navigate other windows on your computer in the same way as well. A feature added with the launch of Windows 10 is virtual desktops, which is great if you keep a lot of apps open or you use your PC for different types of tasks. To see your virtual desktops, hold down the Windows key and the Tab key. You'll see at the bottom of the screen that I have 2 desktop environments that are currently open. To create a new virtual desktop, hold down the Windows key, Control key plus D. Now with 3 virtual desktops currently active, to switch between these desktops, hold down the Windows key plus Control, and then select either the left or right arrow. If you want to quickly make a copy of a file without using Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste, this one actually involves the use of your mouse. Highlight the file, hold down the Control key, and drag the file outward. That's what I call a quick copy and paste. When you're in a document, to quickly jump to the top, hold down Control plus the Home key. Holding down Control.
All right, so we went through a lot of those. I don't really want to go through all of them, but I'm curious. I think we went through about 10 or 15 of those. How many of those did y'all know? How many of those did y'all already know? Most of them? All of them? Some of them? Let me know in the chat how many of those did you kind of already know? Right. And so that's an interesting thing that will probably change when you go ahead and work on your computer all the time. Like, let's say you become a developer or designer and you're working on your computer all the time, all day, every day for 8 hours a day. Some of those you will definitely want to learn keyboard shortcuts, and you will want to learn the ones that are related to your job. So you will tend to learn more keyboard shortcuts as you become more specialized in what you do. I personally, I only use probably 10 to 20, maybe 30 keyboard shortcuts regularly. But I think it's important to know the ones that fit into your workflow well. If you know the ones that fit in your workflow well, you can save yourself a lot of time. And that's basically what expert people do. I'm curious to know, what keyboard shortcuts do y'all use? What are your favorite few keyboard shortcuts? What do you use these days? Yeah, it's kind of, not to belittle you, but, beginner computer users compared to people that have been, a lot of us that are working have been using computers for like 30 years or something. Control F4. And you can even tell us what they do. I'm not sure what Control F4 does. Let's see. CRTL F4. Close the active tab or window. Some people are using Windows plus the 2 arrows, Control Shift T, opening and closing tabs. Windows plus period opens the emoji menu. That's actually a pretty cool shortcut. What is that? Windows plus period. That's a funny one that I did not know, but that is very helpful for people that like emojis. Do kids still like emojis? Or are you over emojis? Control Shift E, centering text on Google Docs. Interesting that you know that one. That doesn't seem like it would come up that often, but Control Alt Delete. Alt Tab. Actually, I don't even know. Most of the shortcuts I use, I don't even know, because I just do them. Like, I couldn't tell you them. I just do them and things happen on the screen. And then I have to, if I try and tell somebody how to do them, I have to like watch myself do them once to see what happens. And a lot of times I get it wrong. Windows L, probably, I think that's log out or something. All right, so you use a few of them. Control S, yeah, a lot of us use Control S like kind of OCD style. So a lot of us use some of them. Now let's look at some rules for doing shortcuts. You want to provide access to most features, especially features that are common. You want to document those shortcuts so that people know how the heck to get to them. you always want to provide like kind of a consistent navigation model. Remember, blind people or visually impaired people are going to want to navigate around your software too. You got to have that consistent navigation model for them, and also for everybody else. It still helps them as well. Usually you want to use a single key or a modifier plus key. Like, that is, usually you want to use control something or Windows key something. You don't want to use control alt Windows key shift something, right? Like, you don't want to have to press 5 buttons to trigger it. But sometimes you do have to use several modifier keys. For instance, I used to work on a thing called Mylan, which is just a plugin to Eclipse. And we had, I think, most of our shortcuts, because all the shortcuts in Eclipse are taken up, most of our shortcuts were at least 2 modifier keys. Some of them were 3. And, you can get used to it. The most important rule of shortcuts: do not clash with common shortcuts. The issue here is some people have tried to hijack things like Control F. I'm surprised people didn't mention Control F, or Control C or Control V. All of these super common ones that people take for granted that should work in pretty much every program. If you ever try and take over these keyboard shortcuts, people will hate you. So you do not want to do this. How do I know this? Well, I was making a tool for searching code one time, and for some reason we decided it was a good idea to hijack the Control F functionality and search code in a new way with our new plugin, and people really got angry. So I recommend, do not hijack a common shortcut. That is a bad idea. You never want to do that. Always use a new shortcut, if possible. Now, one of the things you're going to definitely want to do, and that users like a lot, is having cheat sheets or documenting your shortcuts. So you can document them in a variety of ways. You can document them actually in line in the program. But one great way to document shortcuts is to have a cheat sheet. Imagine you're somebody that works in Microsoft Word all the time. What do you think you would do with this cheat sheet? What would you do if you worked in Microsoft Word like every day for hours a day? What would you do with this cheat sheet? Let me know in the chat. I can stand the awkward silence longer than you can. Aha. Read it and memorize it. Absolutely great ideas. A lot of people, though, also saying, put it on my desk. I wouldn't put it on my desk, but I would tape it to the wall. That is a really good idea. If you have like I have a pin board over here to my left. If there was a program that I was using a lot that I needed to get really fast with, I would definitely have the shortcuts right here, so that anytime I was working, I could just look at it and be like, oh, that's the shortcut for that, and I would spend some time learning the shortcuts. You could print it out and laminate on your desk. That's a good idea. Use it as a mouse pad or whatever. So just having it available. That's what people do with these, and this is a useful thing. Like, I highly recommend doing that with maybe the top 1 or 2 programs that you use. For instance, if you're a developer, there's always going to be one of these for the IDE that you use. Or if you're like going to be a designer like Figma or Illustrator or something, there's absolutely, again, shortcuts for these. So just be aware, this is a great way to document shortcuts. Also to learn them. Now, of course, navigation, like getting around the screen, is important, and that is something that you don't want to screw up, but it's also kind of just important to know how it works. Tab goes to the next input. What do I mean by that? If you go to a form, your input, your cursor is basically on the first thing in the form. You hit tab, it's going to go to the second thing. You hit tab again, it's going to go to the third thing. How do you go backwards if you skipped over one too many? Can anybody tell me how to go backwards in a form? Let me know in the chat. Does anybody know how to go backwards in a form? Navigate backwards. You're tabbing through a form. How would you go backwards if you went one too far? Anybody know? Shift plus tab. There you go. Exactly. And that kind of makes sense, right? Like tab moves you forward, shift plus tab moves you back. I think that's right. I can't do it. I can't tell you always. Again, with the shortcuts, I just do them. I don't always know exactly what they are, but I think it's shift plus tab. Control tab is your next pane or your next tab. Alt plus a letter helps you open the menus. Control plus a letter helps you open toolbars. Most people wouldn't know about Alt plus letter for menus or Control plus letter for toolbars. That's for real power users that just love the keyboard only, or for, blind people or people that can't use the mouse for some reason. Now, one thing I want to mention is there's this thing called access keys. Who can tell me the difference between an access key and a command, like a keyboard shortcut? Who can tell me the difference between an access key and a keyboard shortcut? Access keys versus keyboard shortcuts. Anybody got any ideas? That's a very good guess, but that is not right. So let me go over this because this is interesting. I didn't really know about this till I started doing this class, actually, because it's a little subtle, right? But check it out. If you hit Alt, well, let's go for toolbars because that's what we're looking at next. Control, if you hold down Control, it allows you to open things in a toolbar. So if you hit Control plus T in the context of this particular app, you would be selecting this checkbox in your toolbar. If you had menus and you hit Alt plus the letter of the menu, you would be opening that menu. Okay, so here we have access keys, like you would have had to open the file menu, what is it, Alt plus F to open that file menu. If you wanted to select the top, you could use the N or the A. Those, again, are all access keys. However, Control N, as you can see, is the keyboard shortcut. The keyboard shortcut can be triggered from anywhere in this app without having any menu open. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Control N will always create a new album. However, you can only use these access keys when this menu is open, right? You can only use these access keys when the menu is open. It's contextual, whereas keyboard shortcuts, here we have them in Mac, they work anywhere. Okay, so it's just an important difference to know that access keys are these things that happen only in certain situations, like when this menu's open, you can, use the N or the A to select these things. However, Control plus N always does this no matter where you are in the app. All right. Now, here we're going to do a quick visiting of a website with a mouse just to give you an idea of what it's like to navigate around without a mouse. Let's see if we can do this together. I'm going to start with VCU's website. Here we go. Now, let's say we are trying to open that button, Programs. Do you see the button Programs on the middle right? Does everybody see the button Programs on the middle right? Can anybody tell me how I should start going? Oh, it's actually right behind my head. See that button Programs? That's where we're going to try and get. Can anybody, it's right there. Can anybody tell me how I should start trying to get to the button Programs? What key should I hit first to try and get to the button Programs? Tab. So I'm going to hit Tab once. Ooh, you notice when I hit Tab once, you see a skip to content button. So this is actually a pretty well designed website, because there is a skip to content button, because otherwise, as Cole was mentioning, you would have to hit tab a bunch of times. So I'm going to try and hit this. I'm going to hit return on the skip to content. And now you can see my focus is on the content, which is the center part. Now I'm going to hit tab. And you can see, I don't know if you could see, but I could tell that apply is now highlighted. Apply is highlighted. I'm going to hit tab again. Visit is now highlighted. And ta-da! Programs are now highlighted. Now, that's because this website is actually pretty well designed. You know, we got real pros working here at VCU. Now, let me go back here to the regular VCU website. Let's imagine that some chump had gotten the job of making the VCU website and they had not made it very accessible. Imagine that when I hit tab, there wasn't this skip to content menu. I would then have to go, where is my tab now? Can't even tell where it is, but oh, there it is. There, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I would have to hit tab 21 times. I think you can see that having shortcuts, even for moving to the content, is a really good idea. Having shortcuts, especially for expert users that are just going to use the keyboards, really good idea. Nice work, VCU. All right, moving on. So the point I want to make with this slide, you don't need to memorize all this stuff, is, you know, we've looked at these Windows shortcuts. We've talked about various shortcuts that other people use. I actually learned a couple today. For instance, Windows key plus period opens that emoji whatever selector. And so there's always going to be more keyboard shortcuts out there. There's always going to be ones you don't know. There's always going to be a ton of them already defined. The question then becomes, to me, as a designer and app person, how do you deal with that? Again, let's just look just at the sheer number. Here we have Windows 10 keyboard shortcuts. This is just kind of the basic ones. Here's some more. I mean, you can just get the idea that, like, hey, there are a bajillion keyboard shortcuts defined, and as an app designer, how do I navigate the space in a way that makes things better instead of kind of making things worse, right? Because I think it's actually easy to make things worse in this case. So how do we go about coping with this? First of all, you only automate the most commonly used commands in your app. Let's imagine that, what's an app that y'all would be familiar with? What about Microsoft Word? What commands would you make keyboard shortcuts for if you were in charge of Microsoft Word? What are maybe 1 or 2 commands that you would make keyboard shortcuts for in Microsoft Word? Let me know in the chat. Hello, hello. What are some common things that you do in Microsoft Word? Highlight, center text, bold text. Excellent, excellent. You get the idea. You're not doing some weird esoteric things. You are doing bolding, toggling bold, toggling italics. Excellent. That's exactly what I would hope you would say. Now, would you make your keyboard shortcut Control-C or Control-V? No, absolutely not. Do not conflict with any keyboard shortcut that you are aware of, because if you're aware of it, that means that it's probably a very popular one. You will probably have to conflict with existing keyboard shortcuts at some point, but you don't want to do it with the top ones. For sure not Control V, Control C. So you don't want to conflict with the popular ones. You don't want to use system-wide ones because that screws up your system. So if you're in Windows, you don't want to use the Windows key for your shortcuts usually, right? You want to you don't want to mess with the system-wide behavior. So like if I was inside your specific app and all of a sudden I can't use Alt-Tab to look at all the things that I have open in my system, that's going to really be frustrating. So you don't want to override system-wide shortcuts. And one way to kind of cope with this issue is you might want to just open another popular app and just try and use whatever shortcut you're thinking about using and see what it does. See if it does anything, see if it's available, see if it does something bad. It's just a good kind of sanity check to see whether that shortcut is available, whether it's taken at the system level, things like that. So opening another app that's not your app and just using it will kind of give you some intuition about whether that shortcut is kind of available or not. So to summarize about keyboard shortcuts, an important, a little bit esoteric, but an important topic, you need to continue to support shortcuts for navigation, of course. They are also used for a lot of Windows and Mac operating system kind of operations. Power users are the most important demographics in keyboard shortcuts. They need these. They will stop using your app if they don't have these. And they want to use them for speed and efficiency. So you want to automate the most common things that they're going to be doing and help kind of make their workflow better and better. All right, you've learned about shortcuts. Now it's time to show me what you know. Keyboard shortcut quiz, get in there to Mitzi. There is over 30 of you right here on the stream. Get in there and compete in our exciting quiz for today. Let's see who's the champion. I'll give you just a few more seconds. I don't want you to miss out on that first question. I want you too to have a chance to be a champion. Here we go. Question 1 of 5. Let's get it. Answer fast to get more points. What types of apps need custom shortcuts? What types of apps should we consider making shortcuts for? All apps? Phone apps? Only text editors? White collar or enterprise apps? Or class projects? What types of apps need custom shortcuts? White collar or enterprise apps need custom keyboard shortcuts. All apps is incorrect because phone apps don't really need keyboard shortcuts. That doesn't make sense. There's no keyboard there. Great job, a lot of y'all. Let's move on. Question 2 of 5. What would you use for your app's shortcut? If you were writing a theoretical app, not your app for the class, but just some random app, what would you consider using for your app shortcut? Which one do you think would be good? I'm wondering which one I marked as right here. Could be a couple. All right, good. That's what I thought I would have marked. So Control-Alt-S because it's not that popular of a thing, and it has 2 modifier keys, and Control-Dot because until today I did not know that did anything useful. And so Yeah, I just wanted you to not choose Control S, Control X, or Control A. Those are super important. You never want to override those, okay? So good work. Excellent. Question 3 of 5, here we go. Answer fast to get more points. What should tab do in most cases? What should tab do in most cases? Should it insert a tab? Should it go to the next input? Should it hit the submit button? Should it add a space? Or should it go to the last input? What should tab do in most cases? Tab is used for navigation, as you might recall from our lecture today. What should tab do in most cases? Ding, 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 ding. Way to go. Tab should move to the next input. Y'all did pay attention in class today. I'm so proud. All right, Muna has taken the lead. Way to go, Muna. All right, question 4 of 5. Question 4 of 5, here we go. Answer fast to get more points. What type of developers will have to worry about keyboard shortcuts? If you are this type of developer, you would have to worry about a keyboard shortcut. Is it people making phone apps? People making code editor? People making desktop apps? People making websites? Or people making PlayStation games? What type of developers will have to worry about making keyboard shortcuts? And that's right, code editor developers as well as desktop app developers. It's very important that they pay attention to keyboard shortcuts. Developers love keyboard shortcuts. If you don't support them with that, they will not be happy with you. In fact, I'm doing a study on developers and how they set up their workspaces as part of my research, and I have found that developers are obsessed with keyboards. They have a huge variety of keyboards and they all customize them. If you're not into keyboards yet, maybe you should check it out. You can get some really cool looking as well as feeling keyboards, especially the mechanical keyboard community is crazy. All right, check it out. Question 5 of 5. Answer fast to get more points. What is a good way to see if a shortcut is too popular? What is a good way to see if a shortcut is too popular? Should you ask your friends? Should you look at another app's keyboard shortcut documentation? Should you just don't use Control? Should you open other apps and try it out? What is a good way to see if a shortcut is too popular on the internet? Probably the best way is to open other apps and try it out. I can understand why you wanted to look at other apps' keyboard shortcuts, but sometimes those are incomplete, so open another app and try it out is the preferred way to do it. Open a few apps is even better. And it looks like it is gonna be tight, but looks like Tyler is our winner today, followed by Alex O, followed by Muna, followed by Bloom, followed by Control C, very nice, and Cheese Stick Vic, somebody else Puggy, and Drim. Way to go, y'all. Great work today. All right, so one related topic we're gonna go over real quick is user experience copy, okay? So you get the idea with keyboard shortcuts. You need to have them. You need to not screw up other people's keyboard shortcuts. But what about the text that you have in your UI? Here you have an example of UX copy, the left and the right. One view of this is that it needs to be clean and short. So on the right, this would actually be considered better by most people because it's clean and short. This just gives too much details, like, nobody cares that much about Minesweeper. You just need to give the basics and move on with life. So don't have too much text that just confuses users. have just a little bit of text and make sure it is very clear what is about to happen. Another thing that is important when you're making user experience copy, which is just the text in user experiences, is you want, when you're going to do something, like here we have a menu that does something, it tells you what it's going to do, not the current state. Okay, so here, when you click on the show tab bar, guess what it's going to do? It's going to show the tab bar. It's not telling you the current state. It's telling you what it's going to do when you click on it, okay? So whenever you're going to have a menu item that does something, the text should tell you what it's going to do when you click on it, not the current state of the system. And a final thing that I just want to mention, you probably already know this, but whenever you see a ... in a menu, that usually means a wizard or ongoing process. So that's if you have open ... that means that it's not going to immediately do the action. What it's going to do is it's going to open a wizard or start a process that's going to walk you through how to do that particular thing. So that's how you would indicate that whatever action you're going to do is actually just going to be started by this button. It's not going to kind of be finished. All right, that's it for keyboard shortcuts and UX copy. UX copy obviously being a super tiny subject that we just wanted to hit on really quickly. I want to go ahead and open it up. If you have any questions on the project or the class, hit me up right here in Menti. Otherwise, that is the end of the class for today, and hope you enjoy your weekend. Hope you have a great weekend. Good luck on that project. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions, see you later. All right, somebody's asking the question. It's really more of a statement. On Gradescope, it says there should be 4 separate before and after pictures instead of 1. Yes. So let me be clear. You should have 4 before after pictures, highlighting different parts of your app, the before and after. If your app only has a single page, this could be a problem. But if that is the case, then just show like a snippet of your page and kind of circling or pointing out the before after part, you know? So it is going to be 4 different pictures. Each picture will have a before and after screenshot. The screenshot doesn't have to include the entire page of your app. I would prefer that it did, but you know, it doesn't have to. But that's what I mean by that. Hopefully that's clear. Ask another question if it's not. So somebody's asking 2 before and 2 after. No. This is a 4 before and 4 after. Each picture is a before and after. Each picture is a before and after. So there will be 4 things that you're highlighting that you have improved since last time. Somebody else is asking, does only one person have to submit on Gradescope? Yes, only one person has to submit for the group, and commits aren't needed this time. They aren't needed this time, but they will be needed in the future. So make sure that you're still committing. If your commits drop off in the middle semester, that will affect your grade later in the semester. We'll collect the commits at least one more time, and if you don't commit for the whole middle of the semester, that's going to be noticed. Somebody's asking, how should we highlight the changes? I mean, you know, just like you would if you were presenting to somebody, you could have 2 screenshots. You could, of course, just circle the changes like the before after that you want to highlight. You could have something outside that's pointing towards the things that are changes. I mean, just use common sense here. No, there's no magical way to highlight them. Just highlight them in some way. Somebody is asking, do you watch VTubers? Nope, I do not. I am a professor, a husband, and a dad, so I don't have a lot of free time to watch VTubers. But if you have any good recommendations for style and for fun, I would definitely watch some to get some ideas on how to do class better, because I have a lot of fun doing this, obviously. And so give me recommendations if you have any. No, I do not have a custom keyboard, although after the study that I've just done of developers, so here's my keyboard. I just have one of these. Sorry, I'll have to do it like this. I have this keyboard. It's just a Microsoft Natural keyboard, and it is not custom, and I think it just has standard key switches. They're very quiet. I don't know exactly what they are. I am super interested in these getting a cooler keyboard now that I have done this study of developers and all the cool keyboards they have. However, one problem with a lot of these keyboards is that they are loud. Mechanical keyboards are loud, and I do a ton of Zoom calls as well as class where I'm typing quite a bit, and so that presents a problem for me. If there is a custom keyboard that is customizable but not super loud, I would definitely be interested to know that, because that would be a requirement for me for teaching class, so you can hear me and not my keyboard. So people that are into keyboards are responding in the chat. Definitely depends on the switch you get for the mechanical keyboards. Sounds like brown switches are quiet enough for mechanical keyboards. I don't know enough about mechanical keyboards in terms of the different types of key switches. But if they are quiet, that might do it for me. That sounds pretty interesting. Can also apparently get rubber rings to dampen the sound of keyboards. Interesting. I have a colleague who teaches as well, and he just got a mechanical keyboard, and it's a problem for him. All right, looks like we're out of questions. It's been a pleasure. Hope you all have a great weekend. I will see you next time. Take it easy.